evening once again, folks. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dave.
And I'm sorry, we're trying to get this going, but that last live hit, you know what I'm talking about. You're on Barstools and Pan Talk.
I needed to know if it was my mug, so I smelled it first, okay? Because mine would have smelled like alcohol, Sean's didn't. Okay, so that's what it was all about. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
We're a high top friggin' organization here. We have a treat. I tell you, this lady, I've watched her play in numerous bands, and we're going to find out what she's up to. This is going to be a fun segment.
Part of our Women Who Rock the Maritime series, y'all might have known her as MJ Penton. She played in a number of different bands. We'll talk about some of them. Some of the ones you might remember would be Kid Wicked, would be Jonathan M, would be Secret Treaties. She played in a couple other bands too. She's a talented musician, excellent keyboardist, excellent vocalist, and our new friend, new to me friend, I guess, or new old friend is what we call them. So please welcome, now she's known as MJ Reimann. This is MJ.
Am I sideways again?
You won't be. There you are. No, you are? You're not. There you go.
I fixed it. Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Good.
Well,
So
thank you.
just before we went on, we had mentioned we were having a little bit of a hard time getting certain ladies on here, and David mentioned how he stalked you, and then a text came in. It was really funny. Dave, I'll come on the show when you pay me back that $20. So I think we figured out what's going on here.
Oh, man.
And sort of,
Oh, Dave.
It's very possible that I borrowed money from women back then. I can't say for certain, but anyhow.
Man, if you borrowed it from me, I don't remember. But like I said, that's going to be my theme right now. Anyway, I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, if you pay me back $20 US, I'll take it. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
I guess let's start where you are, because I mean we're at a 5-hour time difference right now. So our good friend MJ Reimann is up in where?
Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah. Let's start the fuck there, because what is going on that there's so many maritime musicians who left here, had awesome bands, and went to Anchorage, Alaska, and stayed. What happened?
Well, you wanted to know what was in the water.
Yes, that's my first question.
I was going to say salmon, and a lot of it, and halibut, and king crab. No, money. There was still money here, and sort of like the big bars. Like there's a nice big bar here that was still bringing in bands for a month at a time. You know, it was pretty nice sit down gig kind of thing. But that's not what brought me here. I don't know how Brian Norman got here. Now I've known Brian. I'm from Newfoundland, and I've known Brian since I was a little teen, and he put up with me asking 1,000 questions. Probably he was with the business then, because I used to sort of, speaking of stalking people, I used to hunt Glenn Simmons, you know, and ask him lots of questions. He's like a big brother to me. Anyway, I don't know how, that was early, and he said he was in Kodiak. That's even an island off of Alaska. That's really super remote. I mean, she must have been something else. So. Anyway. But the much later thread was, I think, I mean, you'll have to ask Colleen Kodak and Paul Pike, but I think it was Fear of Flying came up for one of those, you know, for a month or something, and then just made friends. And it's a quirky, different place. It's not like the rest of the U.S. It's Colleen is responsible for a lot of this. Colleen is responsible for Peter Ettinger being here, because she later, you know, said, "Hey, Pete, there's a nice gig here. I can hook you up with the gig." So he started coming up like month on, month off over a period of years, and then met a woman, had a child, you know. So that's why he's here. I came up to work on an album with Colleen. Now, I was living in Vancouver, BC by then. She'd come down once a year at least to get her new work visa, and she'd stay with me. And I played a few showcases with her in Vancouver. She was trying to get a record deal, so she'd put together a showcase. And I would just play keys and sing backup vocals for her. So we're just really good friends. There wasn't actually a lot of women in the business. And so even though Colleen and I didn't play together in a band, we just, anytime we saw each other or had time off in the same place, I mean, who knows how we ever found each other back then? No cell phones, no
Exactly.
email. No, I don't know how the
No
hell.
internet, you know, there's no.
How did I even get a date? I have no idea. Anyway, so Colleen would stay with me, and then so she said, come up and play on this album with me and be in my band. And when would I ever be in Anchorage, Alaska again? I mean, it wasn't a burning desire on my part. I was enjoying myself in Vancouver, BC. But I came up, I got a 5-month work visa, again, through Colleen. I got hired because the way it worked was you had to have some gigs, and then through the music union, you apply, you get the visa, which is only one letter or number different than a professional clown visa, by the way. Anyway, I'll read that. So I came up and played some gigs, and initially we started out doing this album, and the album didn't happen for a couple of different reasons, but I, met the owner / producer / engineer of the studio where we were going to be recording, and we hit it off. And I said, he's such a great guy, but you had to be from fucking Anchorage, Alaska. Because when I got here, it was like, shit, I'm so far from Newfoundland. I found Newfoundland again. It's all spruce trees and long winter and hunting rifles and pickup trucks and moose and bears. Like, I'm right back where I started, Had to go buy a winter coat. I didn't have one after 5 years in Vancouver, BC, right? So, but he's such a great guy. So I got another work visa. I was like, well, let's just see where this goes. Got another work visa, stayed for a while, and then he proposed, and we've been married 20 years.
Oh, that's awesome, MJ. That's great news. That's awesome.
He's a pretty great guy. He had to be, because I still hold it over. I'm like, Anchorage, Alaska is where you had to be from? Anyway.
Well, that's a great story, and you had me at professional clown visa, to be perfectly honest with you, because I feel calling for us. So
I keep picturing everybody up there is like Sarah Palin. That's all I could think of when I think of Alaska, is that it's all a bunch of Sarah Palins.
Do you know I met her? I held her little baby at a party. It's a long story. Anyway, that's life here. You end up meeting everybody, sort of thing, if you want to, I played at her governor's ball, the inaugural ball for her. Anyway. No, but yeah, she's nuts. She used to be not nuts, and then she got on the national stage and she went bonkers. Just fame made her go woo. Anyway, so I here I am. What do you want to know? Hey, Sean, we were in the same band, and yet we didn't work together. So how did we do that?
we didn't. So I can tell you exactly how we did that. Playing with Tony Collier and the Boys. When you put that band together, I think John was playing bass, was he not?
Mm-hmm.
And it was yourself, and you guys had a drummer from St. John, and I don't remember the other person. You left for whatever reason. I was playing in another band. I kind of wasn't doing anything, and Tony wanted to go back out. And I remember seeing the band. And Nico was in that band for a while too. I got a call from George O'Hearn out of the blue, and he said, Kid Wicket's looking for a drummer. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, shit, yeah, that'd be great. And I had no idea who was in the band. It was totally for Tony. And I didn't know Tony that well. And I tell you, he was one of the funniest, talented, crazy guys. I was on the road with those for a year. And Tony Collier, and we're going to get him on here. He was an amazing guy. Great family. Didn't play with John. John left, and Peter Christmas came in the band. Steve Zach came in the band. A couple different keyboard players. But yeah, and it's funny as I'm hearing you talk, because what I always remembered about you is just like, you know what? If you didn't like what somebody was saying, they were going to hear about it. And I do believe I was on the arse end of that quite a bit.
No.
Yes. Well, you know.
What did I say to you? I'm so sorry. I should just use this half hour to say, I'm really sorry, everybody.
You don't need to say you're sorry. You turned me into the wonderful human being that I am today.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. What?
Like this, Jay. When somebody says, Sean, you're an asshole, it's like, I heard that 20 years ago, man. Freaking what?
I did not call you an asshole. Come on, Sean.
Many times, but I deserve it. Come on, let's call it.
Oh my God.
So, where refresh my memory. Where in Newfoundland are you originally from?
I'm from Gander, and I grew up with a brother who played drums, and he played in a band called The Spoons with John Geddes and Al Gadet sang in that band for a while. Al lived a couple streets over. Al's father was stationed there. Like, you remember, it's like a real airport town, not an outport town, right? So, yeah. So my brother played drums for a while, and then he also did some sound engineering, and another brother did some promotional work and stuff for a young Kevin Blackmore, who created Buddy, what's his name, and the other fellers later on. But Kevin is like another brother to me. He was just at our house a bunch, and, you know, show up at Christmas time, and I'd play Christmas carols, and he'd sing in 15 different voices and carry on, you know. So I grew up kind of like, you know, in a pro musical situation. I'm pretty sure my parents didn't want me to go on the road, but I grew up a little bit around it and knew by the time I was 8 years old, I was going to go do that. I was going to play music. I was classically trained. I studied jazz at St. X. And there I met a bunch of people who I ended up, you know, like became lifelong friends or co-workers, or, you know, people I worked with in the business after that. Everybody there wasn't interested in jazz. A bunch of us were there as a step off point to get into the circuit on the East Coast, right? Because we came from different places, New Brunswick or PEI or Newfoundland, and that was a way to hook in, because when I left there, somebody called me. And I've been trying to remember her name. See, here we go. 40 minutes is not long enough, you guys, because I'll spend 20 minutes going, she was an agent, or became an agent later, but I don't think it was Marnie. It was somebody else. She was a daughter of an agent. She was studying business at St. X. Anyway, so then I jumped into, my first band was Secret Treaties.
Yep, that's where I remember seeing you. Yep. Yeah.
Which, okay, well, tell the truth now. Did you love and admire and respect Secret Treaties? I think a lot of, tell the truth, shame the devil.
So,
they were with Starmaker, right?
I think there was some talent in that band, no question. I think that, and the other thing too, I remember with Halifax, there was some kind of poppier bands doing some things and playing the scene, and I think that band probably was put together to capitalize on some of that. So if I remember, it was a husband and wife combo that was, and it was Carlos's brother.
So yeah, Starmaker, yeah, Nunes, or whatever it is.
Yeah, Nunes, yeah. Yep, that's exactly right. So they were a going concern, and listen, it was 1988 or something, and they already had an EP out on vinyl and a video. Like, who else had that? You know, like. It was an interesting combination of things. I'm still friends with most of the band. I keep in touch with Rosie and Paul, bass player, Terry Good a little bit, one of the drummers. We went through a lot of drummers because he made them play electronic drums. It was a weird band, but a good first band for a 19-year-old to be in, because it was like this family thing. It was so clean cut, and we worked all the time, dude. We were on the road for a year and a half without a week off.
Wow.
Well, I remember that.
And the only reason we stopped after a year and a half was the marriage broke up.
Oh.
We'd probably still be out there somewhere.
Yeah. That band had some killer promo. They had a lot of teeth behind it in terms of promotion.
Yeah,
that's the only band Carlos did. Am I right? Carlos was working for Starmaker with Hazen and Rob McClellan, and he only did Secret Treaties, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that might have been part of the reason we worked all the time. But it's also because the band was so very vanilla. You could put us in any bar. We weren't going to offend anybody or you know, get in trouble with anybody's daughters in that town. It was a very clean cut band. So it was a good, sensible band to be in as far as learning how to be on the road goes. And we were allowed to rehearse every afternoon in the club, even if the club was open. That's how quiet we were on stage, because Danny didn't even have his amp on stage. He had it off stage, turned to the wall with a mic in front of it. The bass, I don't know what Paul did on bass. There was no volume. Electronic drums. It was quiet as a mouse on stage, okay? So we were able to go in and rehearse. We worked on originals. We learned new songs chronically, constantly learning new songs. And so it sort of set me up with a good work ethic. So that was worthwhile. I mean, I knew what it was and what it wasn't. It wasn't cool, but but it was like we worked all the time. Like I said, it wasn't it was kind of band where you could put us anywhere, and it was just, you know, because we were playing pop music. It was pop.
And
It
the dress
wasn't
wasn't
sort of,
provocative. It was very, yeah, I remember very, yeah.
it wasn't overly loud. You know, we could play softly if you wanted us to. It was just this polite band, and yeah, and we worked hard for, you know, well, everybody did try to play really well, and so that was my introduction to the business. Yeah.
Little
Well,
did
and
they know they had a potty mouth Newfoundlander as a keyboard player now,
I don't know what they thought of me. They were all from New Brunswick and very nice, you know, people. But
I was going to say though, MJ, out there working and honing your craft, Dave and I were busy getting fired in every bar we played at. So that's kind of how it was our comeuppance. But so after Secret Treaties, you went where?
I went to PEI and I joined Follow That Car. I had met
Fine.
them on the road, and I thought they're all really cute, fun. It was cool, but like they were so much more cool than Secret Treaties.
Yeah.
So Secret Treaties kind of blew up, and I went home, and I'm like, well, I can't stay. So I called, I don't know, an agency and said, give me the phone number of whoever's running Follow That Car, because I had heard, I think that their keyboard player had to leave the road. His girlfriend was 9 months pregnant. So I called Kent Cox, his name was, and I said, I want to join your band. And he said, okay. And he flew me to Charlottetown like a couple of days later, because they were, in fact, really out of time. It was the last week with the keyboard player, and they didn't have anybody else worked out. So then I joined Follow That Car. And like I said, I think Paul McCausland named that band. They were sort of mentoring the band a little bit, just being fellow PEI guys, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's I forgot. That's another musical connection I had with you, because my high school band, Eric Myers, was the singer, and he was, I want to say he was 8-9 years older than me, and we kind of parted ways. And then I just remember all of a sudden he's playing with you guys.
That's right.
And yeah, so I mean, there you go. It's we're playing the six degrees of musical Sean here.
I think we ran into Follow That Car when you and I were in Rishabukta one time, Sean. It's Fitzsurrender.
Ooh, yeah.
I think they were just ahead of us, maybe playing the week ahead of us. And you and I were shocked, like, that's Eric Myers. We thought he died or something. So anyhow.
Anybody know where he is now?
No. Anyway, so
Next.
This might be your worst interview yet. All right.
No,
Okay.
Okay. So Follow That Car. How long were you in that band for?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. Okay, I don't know.
I had to call all of your friends today to find out all your bands that you're in. So somewhere's along the line.
Ian Stanley. Just call Ian back and he'll
know
something about it, because I don't know anything. I put up one poster so far on the history of whatever. I put up one poster and I said, I think this was 1990. Ian Stanley. Nope, 1989. I made one stab at.
Just stay on our site. Our schools and band talk. Don't worry about any of their sites. That's fine. We'll never correct
Very
you.
good. Yes. Well, anyway, so like I said, I already told Ian I'm going to need his help with. He'll correct all this later. Okay, so then so it was Follow That Car. I have no living idea why I stopped being in that band. So it wasn't anything to do with like a problem with them. They were good guys. I'm still friends with Adam Dowling, the drummer. Adam was in Halifax for a long time, did a lot of work there. He's in Calgary now.
Yeah,
we're still in touch. Huh?
Playing with George Canyon.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was in Kid Wicked.
Yeah. I
think. And then with the Collier Boys, and I tell you, it was Mike Witherington on guitar. He ended up out west, and he's got has a band called Yeah Whatever, which is a great name for a band. John on bass, and the first drummer was Jonathan Kipping. He's still in St. John doing stuff. And then, yeah, Jonathan didn't like the road though. Good guy, great player, did not enjoy the motel life. So we were in the middle of Quebec at a really horrible gig for a couple of weeks. It was like French Connection Mafia strip bar. And yeah, it was good booking. Yeah.
Not Blanc
And
Blanc, was it?
it was La Jambe en l'air, a leg in the air is what it's called. Fucking hell. Anyway, this is why I don't want to remember, see? So we were really out of time because Jonathan was like, I gotta go home. I gotta get out of here. I like you guys, but I can't do this. This was his last gig. Nice send off for poor Jonathan. And we were that desperate. I said, Tony, there's a guy over there with long hair. Go ask him if he's a fucking drummer. Because we were in the middle of Quebec. We couldn't even like go around Halifax and look and see who was available. So I made him go over. And he wasn't, but he knew a drummer who had just come off cruise ships. And he sent Nico Quintal to us. He sent Nico.
And what a drummer he was, and what a character. I mean, that guy, I tell you, I just remember I got to know him through you guys. Remember every time you were around the guy, he was just funny as freaking hell. But what a player. What a player.
Oh.
Yeah.
Monster. It was enjoyable. I mean, he showed up in a lime green suit and I'm like, what the fuck are we gonna do with this guy? But he sat down and played. I'm like, I don't care what he wears. We have to hire him because listen to him, right? So and that was his first road gig. He was like a child, I mean, he had played. I mean, he could play. He'd been on cruise ships, but his first honest to God get in a truck and go on the road gig was with us. And his English wasn't even that good, so but yeah, he's also a lifelong friend. We're still friends. He's had a very interesting career.
If you can connect me through Dave with him, because I haven't talked to him in a long time. Nico actually played with Ettinger, and he went out west and played with Orange, and he had a great go. And just I always hate when somebody says they're really good this, but they're a better person. Wonderful guy who just happens to be a killer player, and I just love to talk.
I thought he was in drama, but yeah, you're right. It was in Ettinger when Peter changed from drama to Ettinger. You're right. I remember that now.
So your memory's not so bad there, young lady. It's coming together quite nicely. So
she has notes. I can see her. She's looking at notes.
I've been panicking all day. No, I was going to write notes, and then I couldn't even write. So my shit. She's I don't know.
Honey, this fucking stalker Dave McPherson wants me to come on a show, and I don't even know what to say. What do I do?
You've been panicking all day, and I had to borrow Dave's mug. Okay, so that's where we're at.
I'm not even drinking, so there you go. Okay, so that brings us to fall that. No, we're at Kid Wicked. Probably, I'm going to guess early '90s now, eh?
Okay, I'll go with that.
We'll ask Ian Stanley later on. So somewhere along the line, I called Larry Hall, and he said, "Hey, no friend. Now, did you play in a band with Larry?"
Yeah, as it turns out, because you reminded me.
Okay.
So no, I remember playing with Larry. I love Larry. I mean, all these guys are great. I just had great experiences all along the way. Yes, I played with Larry. Okay, so after like the bands we just talked about, Secret Treaties, Follow That Car, and Kid Wicked were full-time trying to make it happen, be on the road bands. After that, I went back to what I knew I could do, which is teach. I actually started when I left. I don't know the order. After Kid Wicked, I guess I did teach in a conservatory in St. John, New Brunswick, or just in the suburb there. And then the year later, I got hired by the Canadian Conservatory in Halifax by Bruce Chapman, above Music Stop. So I got to go ultimately where I really wanted to go, which was there. And so then began a chapter of I'm working kind of full time now at this conservatory, but playing in various bands downtown, like at the Moon, a lot, right? To the Palace or whatever. So more in-town gigs then, and less like dedicated on the road time, because I was sort of tethered to being in Halifax at that point. Right. So then I played with, that would have been when I played with Larry, with Jonathan M., right? Jonathan Mullane. And I worked a lot with Keith Andrews. I finally remembered his last name, his stage name, Keith Andrews. At 2 different times I worked with Keith, because one time was with Brent Creaser on drums.
Yeah.
And then I went away out west. I started living in Vancouver, and Keith called me and he said, come back, let's do an album. And at that point he was being mentored by Kevin McMichael, right, from Cutting Crew, who had moved back to the East Coast. Kevin McMichael thought Keith could really do something great, so he was kind of overseeing, I guess I'd say producing, you know. So he asked me to come back, so I did actually leave Vancouver and go back to work with him and work on that album. And that second time it was Sean Kilbride on drums.
Right.
Yeah. And
So I was talking to Sean the other night, and he's got a super cool gig now. He's playing, he's doing theater work.
yes.
And obviously everything's shut down now, but he's been doing the same production for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Dave's about to.
I sneezed.
Your
I just want to
idea
put my mask on. See, nothing happened. That's all. I apologize.
Yeah. And, he's actually going to come on the show, but he's doing really well. It was cool to talk to him. He's doing really well. So
If you talk to Sean Kilbride, ask him why he used to lose his voice while playing drums with Haywire, even though he wasn't singing. You ask him that question and tell him.
Am I going to be? Do you know the answer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. I'll do it. That'll be fun.
Hey, that could be a trivia question. These new masks that she came up with the idea with, the first one that we give away, that could be the trivia question.
Oh, I'm building that mask tomorrow. I'm going to tell you right now. That's an awesome idea. But anyhow,
Excellent.
so Keith Andrews had a multitude of players in that band. So Peter Dolman was in that band one time. I think Chris Westall was with Jonathan M. So there's a whack of people between those two guys.
I know. And they're all lovely people. It's just, please don't ask me to name everybody, because I can't.
I will not. But it was. But you stay consistent through it all.
I guess so.
No, did he not
Dave,
win?
I told you this wasn't good.
Oh, sure. Did he not win a homegrown, though, a Q104 homegrown? Didn't
What?
Keith Andrews, didn't he win a Q104 thing or homegrown contest?
I think so. It was when I was not there, so either before or after me. Yeah.
So you went back out west again?
I went back out west again, and then I stayed for a good long time out west. West was interesting. I actually shared a house with James Polkinghorne, Jim Polkinghorne.
Yes.
I had really got to know James when he had come back from Toronto with Chad Conrad. Chad had made this new band. It was right on the crest of like the whole grunge thing happening. So they were embracing some of that. They were playing, Smells Like Teen Spirit and stuff like that, and Pearl Jam, but also playing Led Zeppelin. It was just this cool fucking band they put together. And it was all like Toronto guys, except for Chad and Jim. I always call him James. Luke Moretti on guitar from Toronto, and Gary something on drums. Great band. So that's when I really got to sort of know James, and then that fell apart. He took off out west. We had just kept in touch, and so I ended up sleeping on his couch. I was one of a lot of people were going west then. Tim Hewitt was already out there, and Lee Dimbert was already out there. All those guys. So I ended up going out. We got 4 minutes left or something. Anyway, it was interesting. I went out there to find, because I was 25 then, and I went out to find out if I was a writer or not. I was like, I don't have a boyfriend, a kid, a dog, a cat, a plant. This is the moment to do it, because otherwise I'll get tethered down to something else later. And so I went out, and it was not that I'm some great keyboard player. It was just there was always a demand for them. And so I started getting calls like, oh, here, you're a keyboard player. You just moved here. Would you like to join our band? And it was really hard to do, but I just said, no, thank you. And I'd hang up, and I'm like, it was really hard. And I stopped teaching music. My parents were delighted. Got a job as a waitress, and just went and sat under a tree waiting for the noise to stop, because it had been so much music for so long. And and then I just waited, and then to see if I had anything to write or anything to say, I was totally happy playing cover music. In fact, have a whole other chapter, which we don't have time to talk about, where I've done that here. I had almost like a show band, like just a really good band. We only played corporate events and ballrooms and high-end stuff here for years. Like I did that for another 14 years here and became a lead singer. Tony Collier is to blame, by the way, for me being a lead singer. Because I was happy back there in my box of keyboards, you know, three, like in my hair spiked up to here and keyboards in my little nest, my cage. And he said, you know, he was singing some really hard shit. He was singing Whitesnake and Bon Jovi and everybody's high-end hit stuff, song after song. So he said, can you come out and sing a lead? I need one break during each set, like in the middle of the set. If I could sing one, he'd get 3 minutes to recover. So I was like, I don't know. Melissa Etheridge record just come out. Somebody bring me some water and like the way I do. And so I tried those, and I tried Magic Man from Heart or something like that. And I tried them in rehearsal with the band. I'm like, oh my God, that really sucked. I'm sorry. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? That was great. You're doing it. Like Tony made me do it. He made me go out front. I was used to being behind all these keyboards. I came up front, there's just a little skinny pole there. I'm like, what the hell? This is terrifying. I was so scared, right? But I ended up, you know, being a lead singer because of him. So.
Yeah, Tony's responsible for a lot of good and bad things that have happened. But that, every time, true story, every time I hear Magic Man, I think of that band, because the first time I really, really heard a band do it was you guys did it at the Misty Moon with Kid Wicket. And it's funny because our radio stations here, that seems to be one they play about 15 times a day. But it was very cool.
So you're right. It's funny how you can count this down. You're kind of a numbers freak. I can tell now, MJ. So she knew all this stuff before I even talked to her today. Here's what I want to know. So, are you writing your own music now? I know you're doing some teaching, but are you doing some? You have a studio, or
Yes. Yeah, I write my own, and you know, I don't know. I just fuck around. We own a recording studio. What can I say? I'm spoiled rotten. I didn't really put out an album. I've put out a few singles here and there. I'm currently now, to come full circle, working with Kevin Blackmore on doing, it's a duo now. I didn't intend to insert myself so much. First, I was going to say, let's help him do a solo album, because after 30 years or whatever, he's finally retired from Buddy, what's his name, and the other fellers. Right. All along the way, he wrote this catalog of music that didn't belong in this comedy trio. Right. It didn't fit. And so somehow we got in touch again. Well, it was on Facebook. We got in touch again, and he sent me some stuff. He's like, can you take a listen? I don't know what to do with this. He knew he was a year or so from retiring from the other thing. And he sent me the songs, and they were heartbreaking and beautiful, great songs. And then I just started, because I don't know, he's foolish enough to listen to me. I started taking a chisel to him to chip off all the characters and get down to Kevin's voice. Like, what would Kevin's Blackmore sound like instead of Buddy, instead of a character? Right. Like he said, I'm bringing a machine gun to a knife fight. You know, it's like strip. So I helped him. I sort of coached him, like, let's get you down to a more natural singing voice. And my husband got involved, and so we've been doing these arrangements of his songs, and sometimes it's just some little touches here and there. He'll track it in his house in Glovertown, Newfoundland, send it to us, and then my husband just does amazing magic tricks. So that's kind of what we're up to now, is working on this duo. If anyone wants to take a look at it, it's the Blackmore Reimann Project. You can see it on Facebook. Yes. Or blackmoreremannproject.com. There's a website. We even started a Patreon. But Kevin's got his fans, right? And so it's just a question mark of how many will go with him on this new journey, because it's a lot more, some silly, but a lot less silly than his other stuff. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm working on my own music here and there. I've had a couple of successful things happen. I wrote a lullaby that became a children's board book called Newfoundland and Labrador Lullaby, and that's it did really, really well. It's currently out of print because the company went out of business, but I mean, we sold thousands and thousands of those. So I felt really nice about that. Like Newfoundlanders embraced it, so it felt really
Nice.
Well, I got to tell you, dude, I think we're almost out of time, but it is absolutely great seeing you again because it's been a long time, and it's awesome stuff that you're doing. And don't be a stranger. Hit us up on this page because it's growing, and Dave, we're gonna promote that. That's the website and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Thank you guys.
My new old friend Colleen said, you got to get all of MJ. She lives like down the street. We talk all the time. I was like, okay. And I was like, I knew the name. I was like, well, who's she? So I started doing some research, and there's nothing on your Facebook because I'm stalking. Right?
I know. I'm sorry.
So I started calling people. It's like, oh yeah, yeah. And then I know she is. I know she is right away. And then I knew you were. I was like, okay, I'll call her. And you know what? We're glad you were here because it's.
What'd you say, Sean? Wait a minute. What?
I was right away. You should have just asked me.
Yeah. Yeah, she's that chick who called me an asshole.
That's right. I remember the people that call me an asshole. There's a lot of them, but I remember each and every one of them.
I don't think I did that.
Oh,
I don't remember.
Awkward.
I was just cranky at the time. Listen, you're a lot less assholey now, so so that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I've grown, MJ. I've grown.
He's a bigger asshole.
Maybe I was the asshole, Sean.
No, never.
I know. I certainly had my dukes up being in the music business. Like I
I
wanted to be taken seriously, and
I hear
it was
you.
important to me.
We all know it's hard to be on the road. I can't even imagine being one woman with 4 or 5 other guys, including the sound man. Like I said, you got to be a special kind of person. You know what I mean? To put up with all that shit, you got to be, right?
I adopted a lot of their behaviors. I was pretty crass sometimes, but I wanted everyone to be comfortable, and I also had a very firm rule about not dating anybody I worked with because that's just too complicated, So I think that helped, right, for it to be taken more seriously. Like they stopped seeing me as a girl. And then I would just make body jokes and burp and whatever, just trying to make people comfortable, because I wanted them to be comfortable. I mean, we had to live together. We had to travel together. And I wasn't going to be a girly girl. So I picked up a corner of the bass bins. I tried to do as much as I could. I wanted to be considered an equal. So.
Well, I'm going to share that little tidbit with my current bass player who doesn't lift any gear, and we're going to start getting the lift gear now. So thank you for that.
MJ, listen. We want to thank you so much for being on the show. I'm not a stalker, really. I'm a fan, just like yourself. And we thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys so much for doing this. These are so fun. Thank you for putting in the time. We're all really enjoying it. Thanks.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Take care, hon.